Hey there, it's Kat, and this is Brews and Reviews. Today I'm going to be doing the mid-year book Freakout tag, and by the time you're seeing this it will definitely not be mid-year, but with this channel you get what you get. Sorry. I'm going to hop straight into the questions. I'm sure you've seen this tag many a time already since it is very late, and let's just get straight to it. Question number 1 is the best book you've read so far in 2022. This was actually really hard for me to choose because, one, I've decided not to include rereads, and I think some of those rereads would definitely count as the best book that I've read this year. I have read a lot of 5-star reads, but again, a lot of those were rereads, and also I don't know how many of them have actually sort of made it into that top tier favourite section for me, so I'm going to pick the book that I think that I'd like the most, but I wouldn't necessarily say that any of the books that I've read new this year have gone into my favourite list. So with that disclaimer out of the way, the book that I am picking for this is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. Now, I really love this book. I really wasn't expecting to either. I think that this is so hit or miss for a lot of people, and I was really worried it was going to be a miss because of like the slight historical bits of it. It wasn't really sort of my style. I was so wrong. So wrong. There was a whole sort of death god, slightly morally great / evil kind of character in it, and I really liked how Addie interacted with the world and the different people. And it was so much more touching and moving than I thought it was going to be. I was definitely very surprised, and I would say that this is probably the best book that I read in 2022. Question number 2 is the best sequel you've read in 2022. And for this one I'm going to use 2 books because they're part of the same series and I kind of just see them on the same level. And for this question I'm going to pick Days of Blood and Starlight and Dreams of God and Monsters by Laini Taylor. These are the sequels to the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy. And I think part of the reason that I count these as the best sequels for this year is because I have not read them for such a long time. I read the first book I think back in 2017 and then just didn't read the sequels, and I finally have, and I feel like I was really happy with where the series went and everything that happened, and I didn't feel disappointed. I liked that it was kind of bittersweet, and it just felt like the series was a constant for me. In fact, I probably liked the sequels a little bit more than the first book in the end because it mostly focused on the things that I would say that are spoilerish that happened in the second half of the first book. If you know, you know. I don't want to spoil anyone that doesn't. It goes on a tangent, very different turn from where it starts off, and I liked it a lot more. So I was really happy with these, and I'm really glad that I ended up picking them up. Even if this book, or this copy of this book, was missing the last 13 pages, I am still bitter about that. Question number 3, new release you haven't read yet, but want to. And for this one I'm going to pick The Hourglass Throne by Katie Edwards. This is book 3 in the Tarot sequence, and I just haven't gotten to this one yet because I want to reread The Last Sun and The Hanged Man and all of like the free little stories that are also existing out there. I want to reread those before I get to this because I feel like I have forgotten the feels I had for this. This series has so many feels. It has great banter. It's an urban fantasy with a tarot magic system and just some really creepy elements, especially in the second book. There is like a creepy ship of death, which is just great. I can't recommend this series enough, and I just really want to get to this, and I haven't yet, so that's a little sad. Question number 4, most anticipated release for the second half of the year. Honestly, I've got no idea. Totally clueless, really bad at future release type things. Honestly, I'm really bad with things that have been released this year. People just talk about books, and then I pick the books up, and I'm like, yeah, this was really good, or it wasn't. But I'm really bad at forward planning with things, so I don't have an answer for this question. Question number 5, your biggest disappointment. Well, it's Ink Death by Cornelia Funk. This is book 3 in the Inkheart trilogy, and I really did not like this book. I was extremely disappointed, especially given that I read Inkheart, well, I want to say in high school, so that's like 15 years ago now, probably longer than that. That's probably me being a bit generous. And I really liked that. And then I read the sequel and I thought that was okay. And then recently reread the first one, loved it still. The second one, didn't love it. The third one, wow, what a waste of my time. What a waste of my time. This is like 650 pages of hating all of the characters, wondering where the storyline went and why while the things were happening, and I just hated the ending, and I can't recommend it. If you want to read this series, maybe just read the first one and then stop, and your imagination is probably better than what actually happens. Question number 6 is your biggest surprise, and for this one I'm going to pick This Is How You Lose the Time War by Amal El Mokhtar and Max Gladstone. I think the reason that this one surprised me so much is that I heard that it was kind of a little bit more lyrical, like, I don't know, it's sci-fi, so sometimes I can be very hit or miss with types of sci-fi, especially when everyone describes it as this really beautiful story, and I don't know, that put me on edge going into it, and then I actually picked it up and I was like, no, but it is beautiful, and it's like a sapphic time travel romance between opposite sides of a war, and I just loved it. They leave each other little notes throughout time, and it made me really emotional, especially at the end. I didn't expect to cry. It's a very short book, and I just really recommend that you pick it up. That was a terrible description of it, and it doesn't do it justice, but yeah, it was a great book, and I was surprised by how much I enjoyed that. Question number 7, favourite new author, debut or new to you? So again, this one was really hard for me because I don't necessarily think that there are any authors that I'm like, oh, favourite, top 10, amazing. So I'm going to say 2 authors that I am really intrigued to read more from them anyway. They're not necessarily my favourites, but I want to see what they do next because I think they have the potential to become favourites if they sort of continue along the lines that they're going on. So the first author is Emily A. Craig. The book that I read was House of Salt and Sorrows, and I really enjoyed the gothic vibes in this. It was kind of creepy in a lot of sections, and I liked the characterization of a lot of the characters. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And I just really enjoyed it. It was something that gave me different feelings and vibes to a lot of other books that I've been reading, so I would definitely be interested in seeing what Emily A. Craig writes from now on. The other author I'm super interested in is Micaiah Johnson. The book that I read was The Space Between Worlds. I know that's very hit or miss for a lot of people, but it was a hit for me. I really enjoyed it. I think a lot of things could have been expanded on a little bit more, but I really liked the concept, and I did like the execution, so I want to see what else they write, and I'm here for it. Question number 8, newest fictional crush. I don't have an answer for this. I don't think I ever have an answer for a fictional crush. So what we're going to say is character that I liked that I shouldn't have liked. And that's Luke from The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. He is not a good being. He is he's really just not nice. He's evil. But I was really just enjoying every time he was there on the page. Can't help it. Bad times. Question number 9, your newest favourite character. I feel like I haven't really been hit by any characters this year. It makes it sound like I've not really been enjoying what I've been reading this year, but I have. I just haven't had the, like, that's a favourite sort of thing. So the character I'm going to say is Silas from Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. He's a demon, and you can't really necessarily always tell his motivations. To be honest, I just liked all the characters from Sorcery of Thorns. That is beside the point, but I just really enjoyed Silas and his just attitude towards everything, and the fact that he could definitely kill you if, you know, he chose to, or was not bound into not doing that. It's good. It's a good time. I enjoyed Silas as a character. More of that, please. Question number 10, a book that made you cry, and for this one I'm going to pick Grey Veil by Lynette Noni, because I had an infamous moment where my headphone fell out of my ear while I was painting because I was crying so much. It fell into the paint pot. It was a whole thing, and I just feel like it's become infamous, and that's why I had to mention it for this question. This is book 4 in the Medoran Chronicles. First book is Akane, and stuff really hit the fan in this book, and I really liked it. My favourite character was in it a lot more. And then there were just some things that happened at the end that were like, oh, your heart, did you need that? No, I'm just going to rip it out and stomp on it and squish it. Because it really hurt. It's a bad time. I was very upset about it. Obviously I can't give you any context to this because it is book 4, and that's really a lot of spoilers. I'm not doing it. Question number 11, a book that made you happy. For this one I'm going with Take a Hint, Danny Brown by Talia Hibbert. Finally read this one, absolutely loved it. I think I prefer it to Get a Life, Chloe Brown, which is another book that I really enjoyed. But this one, there was just something about both of the main characters. They were just both the best, and I loved reading about them and how they acted and how they just were as humans. It just made me very happy, and I could read this book again and just enjoy every second of it. And if you want just like a happy romance, well, it's not all happy, there is like some sad things that happen in it, but it just gave me happy vibes, and I walked away from this book just very happy. So yeah. Question number 12, the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year. Well, I haven't actually bought that many physical books this year. I've bought a lot of ebooks and audiobooks, so this was really hard. I also haven't bought any special editions of anything. These, like, the super pretty books, I've been bought by other people. So this is kind of the prettiest one I bought, and it's A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. I really like how sort of simple this is, the navy with the gold on top. I just think it's really pretty. Aesthetically, it pleases me, so I'm good with that. And question number 13, what books do you want to read before the end of the year? So for this one, I have a bunch of TBRs that I set myself, but most specifically, and something that I'm going to be focusing on over the next couple of months because I have to, is my 30 books to read before I'm 30 list. I turned 30 at the beginning of November, so I really need to get on that. I'm going to read off my bullet journal. The books that I still have to read for my 30 before 30 list are Spyglass by Maria V. Snyder, Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer, Horns by Joe Hill, Queen of Shadows, Empire of Storms, and Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas, and The Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. So I've got some chunky books to read on there. I feel like I want to do the Sarah J. Maas ones as a chunk because obviously that would make sense. And then I just have to sort of make myself sit down and read the chunky other ones like Midnight Sun and Priory of the Orange Tree. I've definitely been procrastinating them. Those are some of the biggest books that I put on this list anyway, and I knew I was going to hate myself towards the end of this challenge, so hopefully I like them and then don't hate myself because I actually read the big books. So that's it for the mid-year book freakout tag. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!